So welcome to First Parish in Bedford, a Unitarian Universalist congregation where we come together every week as people with diverse beliefs and a shared commitment to bring more peace, hope, and love into the world. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whether you worship one God, many gods, or no God, you are welcome here. I want to say a special welcome to our visitors this morning in person and on Zoom. We're so glad you are with us today. Here in the sanctuary, you are invited to fill out a blue connection card, which you'll find along the row of the pews. You can give that to one of the ushers during the offertory collection, and we will add you to our mailing list. In Zoomers, we will put a link in the chat for you that'll take you to a digital connection card that you can fill out so we can add you as well. Parents and caregivers of little ones, there is a nursery available downstairs for your convenience, but we are always delighted to have our littlest ones here in the sanctuary with us as well. Everyone is invited to join us after the service in the common room for coffee, tea, and fellowship. If you are feeling adventurous, we encourage you to use the special designated Make a New Friend table to talk to someone new today and maybe make a new friend. We also have set up a quiet space upstairs in room 201 as an additional place for conversation and connection. There's coffee service and snacks in that room as well. So, a few announcements this morning. The First Parish All Ages Cabaret Talent Show is back. It is this Saturday, March 2nd at 7 p.m. See your order of service for more details. We hope you will join us. It is going to be fabulous. Save the date. The 2024 Talents and Treasures Auction is coming on April 6th. We are accepting donations online beginning today through March 18th, so check the monthly newsletter and your inbox for more details. We are in need of some additional plucky volunteers to sign up for Sunday mornings for coffee and ushering and other light volunteer tasks that make Sunday morning possible here at First Parish. So please consider assisting with a task on one of those Sundays. If you are new to the community, these are like super easy one-off tasks that are fun. It's a great way to meet new people and get more connected. So check out the volunteer page on our website for the links to volunteer. You can also just email me or the office if you need assistance. Finally, and I'm very excited about this one, we have a new thing at First Parish beginning today. This afternoon from 2 to 5 p.m., we will be playing games, tabletop games, in our common room. So if you love playing games, or if you just kind of like playing games, but you love like talking to people and laughing and meeting people, this is for you. You can bring your favorite game to play. We will have games here to play. This is an all-ages event. All are welcome, but please note, this is not a drop-off event for children, so each child should have a designated adult with them. It is going to be a blast. Bring a friend, bring two. That is it for our announcements. So now if you will please rise again, we will share in our unison affirmation, which is in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ley. Este es nuestro gran pacto, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en espíritu de amor, y ayudarnos los unos a los otros. Please be seated. So this is the time for our story for all ages. So families out on Zoom, this is a great time to gather a little more closely around the inviting blue glow of your monitor. The story is called The Test. Once upon a time, there was a boy who lived in a small village far away at the base of a great mountain, surrounded by woods and waterfalls. The boy loved his village, he loved its people, and he loved the woods and animals all around. And what he wanted more than anything was to grow up to be wise, so he could serve the village that he loved. "Mama," he said one day, "how do I become wise like the elders who serve the village?" And his mother said, "Well, the old man who lives up in the mountains is the wisest teacher alive. If you go to study with him, they say that he can make you wise." "Can I, Mama?" the boy asked. "It's a day's walk up the mountain," said his mom, "but you are old enough now. I'll pack you some food. You may be gone a while. He is a very strict teacher." So the boy left the village and he hiked up the mountain. It was a long and hard walk, but eventually he found the old man's modest little home in the mountains. Feeling very nervous, he steeled up his courage and he knocked on the door. The old man answered in a plain robe. He had the longest, whitest beard the boy had ever seen. "What can I do for you, young sir?" asked the old teacher, not unkindly. "Well, please, sir," said the boy, "I would like to be your student so you can teach me to be wise." "Well," said the old man, "I don't take a lot of students these days. Not too many are interested, to be honest. But I will make you my student if you can pass a test." "What is the test, sir?" asked the boy. "It is very simple," said the teacher. "Down that path away into the woods, there's an old tree fort up at the top of the tallest tree. It's a good place for a student to be alone to think. I see you've got a lot of food and water. That's good because you might be there for a while. Here's the test." And he put in the boy's hand a small, downy white feather from an owl, and he curled the boy's fingers closed around it, and he said, "Go sit up into that tree fort and hold on to this feather." "Hold the feather?" said the boy. "That's it?" "Yes," said the teacher. "Hold on to the feather until it is time to release it. Then release it." "How will I know it's time?" asked the boy. "It's different for everyone," said the teacher. So the boy took the feather, holding it very tight in his hand, and he climbed up the tree, being careful not to let go of the feather while he climbed. And he sat in the tree fort all night long, puzzling over his task. How would he know when it was time to release the feather? Would he hear a voice telling him? The next morning, the teacher came to visit, standing at the base of the tree and calling up, "Do you still have the feather?" "Yes," said the boy. "Good," said the teacher. "Do not release it until it is time." "Will I hear a voice telling me it is time?" asked the boy. "It's hard to say," said the teacher. "It's different for everyone." And he left. The boy sat in the tree fort all day, holding the feather tight in his fist. How would he know? Would he have a vision telling him? What if he got it wrong? The next morning, the teacher came to visit again, standing at the base of the tree and calling up, "Do you still have the feather?" "Yes," said the boy. "Good," said the teacher. "Whatever you do, do not release it until it is time." "How will I know it's time?" asked the boy. "Will the Buddha tell me?" "It's different for everyone," said the teacher, and he left. The boy puzzled all day long, growing more worried he would get it wrong. He had no idea he would know it was the right time. "Will a dream tell me?" he wondered. But that night he didn't dream at all. In fact, he barely slept. He was so afraid he would accidentally drop the feather. The next morning, just as the sun was rising, while he was deep in his worry, he heard a loud snap, and he heard the yipe of an animal in pain. The boy carefully climbed down the tree, taking care not to drop the feather so he could investigate. And just off the path, he found a small fox, caught in a cruel trap. Its leg was injured. The fox thrashed about, but it could not free itself, and the boy knew that the fox would die if he did not help it. But to release the trap would surely take both his hands, and there was no way he could do that and hold on to the feather. The boy looked at the fox, struggling. He felt the feather in his hands. He heard the teacher's voice in his head saying, "Whatever you do, do not release the feather until it is time." But there was no voice, there was no vision, there was no dream telling him it was time. "Fine then," said the boy, "I will release it anyway." And he opened his hand, and the fine white owl feather rose in the breeze and drifted away. And the boy carefully freed the fox from the trap, picked up the wounded animal, carried it up the tree so he could bandage its leg and share his food and water with it and nurse it back to health. So that day the teacher visited and said, "Do you have the feather?" "Teacher," said the boy, "I let the feather go." "What?" said the teacher. "How did you know it was the right time?" "I didn't know," said the boy. "I released the feather so I could rescue this fox that was caught in a trap." "Then you have passed the test," said the teacher. "The right time is not about knowing. It is not learned from voices and visions. It emerges from life that is happening around you. It flows from kindness and compassion, and understanding this is the beginning of wisdom." And that is how the boy came to study with the old teacher, and they say he grew up to be very wise indeed. Thank you for sharing our story today. Children and youth, we're going to sing you out to your RE classes. Please go with your teachers. We're going to sing Jason Shelton's Children's Blessing.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Marge Heckman, and I'm a member of the lay pastoral team here at First Parish. And at this time in the service, we invite anyone in the sanctuary to come forward and light a candle of joy or concern. And if you're on Zoom and would like to light a candle, raise your hand and let them know, and we will come to you after the people in the sanctuary have spoken theirs. Please try and keep your comments brief.
May the joys and sorrows shared today be held in care and kindness. Our joys and sorrows go out beyond this community, into the larger community, into our world. I want to share with you today a prayer by the Buddha, known as the Metta Prayer. This is a prayer for peace. May every creature abound in well-being and peace. May every living being, weak or strong, the long and the small, the short and the medium-sized, the mean and the great, may every living being, seen and unseen, those dwelling far off, those nearby, those already born, those waiting to be born, may all attain inward peace. Let no one deceive another. Let no one despise another in any situation. Let no one from antipathy or hatred wish evil to anyone at all. Just as a mother with her own life protects her only son from hurt, so within yourself foster a limitless concern for every living creature. Display a heart of boundless love for all the world in all its height and depth and broad extent. Love unrestrained without hate or enmity. Then as you stand or walk, sit or lie until overcome by drowsiness, devote your mind entirely to this. It is known as living the life divine. In this time of wars and rumors of wars, may we find our way to peace. May the aggressors find a way to lay their weapons down. May the wounded know healing. May the hungry be fed. May the hostages be released and the prisoners freed. May all people be kept safe. May hatred cease. May violence cease. May all of us act as though peace is possible. May all of us speak up for peace in whatever way we may. May we keep the dream of peace alive in our hearts and speak words of peace in the streets and in the halls of our elected officials. May we demand peace, and with our neighbors and alongside our neighbors, may we work to foster the spirit of peace. Always, peace seems impossible until it is suddenly possible. May we keep the dream of peace alive in our hearts until that moment. And may the spirit of peace rest in each of us as hope, as longing, and as a promise. Amen. Our meditation hymn today is number 15 in your gray hymnals, The Lone Wild Bird. You may remain seated as we sing it.
Now is the accepted time. Not tomorrow, not some more convenient season. It is today that our best work can be done, and not some future day or future year. I don't always pay a lot of attention to the words at the very top of the order of service, and this is what they were. They remind me of Dr. King's words, the fierce urgency of now, echoed by our former President Barack Obama. This is the day, this is now, our best time, and the time that we can actually do something. That something is the support of this church and its work. Our offering will now gratefully be received. Our reading today is titled Shadows of Unknowing by Reverend Elizabeth Tarbox from her book, Evening Tide Meditations. Gray, the color of the lake before sunrise. Gray, the underside of the gull that flies overhead, while the earth blindly searches for morning. Give me gray. Gray, the color of not sure, don't know yet. Gray, the color of compromise, maybe. Let me think about it. Gray for talking things over, listening again, thinking some more. Gray for the shaded areas of the other point of view, for the possibility of change. Gray for the smudged edges of what was once dogma and is now doubt. Gray. In the bright red and green and blue and gold of the season, and the noise and the festivity, give me gray. For the quiet of my soul, the moment of heaviness before sleep, the peace of meditation. The steel gray of the lake mirrors the gray clouds overhead, and the bird meanders through the grace of morning flight, waiting, watching the movement of a gray walker watching him. The earth bows to find the dawn and feels its first slanting beams. Can I take this as a promise, I wonder? That after the questions, the doubts, and the hours of contemplation, there will be gold through the gray, promise fulfilled and truth revealed? I don't know, but I believe in small epiphanies. A single beam of light in the darkness, some sought-for star, some one certainty emerging from the gray. Meanwhile, let us embrace the doubt and cherish our unknowing and patiently await the dawn.
Story goes that when Prince Siddhartha Gautama was born, there was a prophecy that he would either be a great religious teacher or a great king. He was already well positioned to be a king, being a prince and all, and that was certainly the option that his father was hoping for. Siddhartha's mother had died in childbirth, so his father held sway, and he took great pains to keep Siddhartha confined to the palace, sheltered from all matters religious or spiritual, and from any experience of suffering that might trouble his soul. But one day, Siddhartha insisted on visiting the local village, and having escaped from the confines of the earthly pleasures of palace life, he discovered the reality of old age and sickness and death, all in the same day. And he learned that these things are the inescapable fate of all. And he was so disillusioned to have this veil of his happy, carefree life pierced by the reality of suffering that he left the palace. And he left his future kingdom, and he decided to become a wandering holy man, determined to find the secret to enlightenment and an end to all suffering. There were a lot of wandering holy men in those days, and Siddhartha wandered with the best of them. For 6 long years he wandered. He sought enlightenment at first in the renunciation of the body, and he was so good at renouncing his body that he very nearly killed himself from starvation, but that didn't bring enlightenment. So he decided that he would find enlightenment by purifying his mind rather than torturing his body. And he sat down at the foot of a Bodhi tree, and he meditated there. And he vowed not to get up from his meditation until he had achieved enlightenment. And so he sat there meditating, one version of the legend goes, for 49 days. And on the evening of the 49th day, he achieved the awakening he had been striving for, and by dawn, Siddhartha had become the Buddha, the enlightened one, the one who has solved the problem of suffering. Now, the solution to the problem of suffering is a topic for another day. The question I am wrestling with today, and it is related to our monthly worship topic of transformation, the question I'm wrestling with today is, what happened on the 49th day? What was so special about that day? Imagine what Siddhartha might have been feeling on day 48. After 47 days of fruitless meditation, seemingly no nearer his goal. And these have not been easy days, right? The legend says that while Siddhartha meditated under the Bodhi Tree, the demon god Mara attacked him with visions of doubt and fear and sought to distract him with temptations. And you can imagine the doubts and fears piling up day after day. What am I doing? Am I wasting my time? Are people talking about me on the internet? Am I like tree-sitting guy, like enlightenment fails? Am I a meme now? You can imagine the temptation to give up. Am I on the right path? Is this even possible? 48 days under the tree and nothing, and yet he continues on to the 49th day, evening and nothing, and then suddenly enlightenment. What changed on the 49th day? Why that day? So let's talk about time for a minute. The ancient Greeks had two different words for time, representing two very different ways of thinking about time. The first word is chronos, corresponding to how we normally think of time in the West as linear time, as measurable, as quantifiable. If we're talking about something lasting 2 hours or 2 days, that's chronos. If we say, I'm going to go for a walk at 4 o'clock, that's chronos. And interestingly, this kind of time, chronological time, is named after the Greek god Kronos, born of heaven and earth, father of Zeus and all the major gods you learned in the 6th grade. And the story goes that when Kronos became a father, there was a prophecy that his children would overthrow him, and so he swallowed them all at birth. In the same way that chronological time consumes us all who are its children. And in the myth, Zeus escapes and he frees all of his siblings, but that is also a story for another time. But the Greeks recognized a second kind of time apart from Chronos, and the other kind of time is called Kairos. Kairos is not linear time. It is not predictable time. It is not measurable time. It means the fullness of time. Kairos is propitious time, the time of arrival, the favorable time. It is a moment when a time has arrived so that something new can be born. It is the right time to do a thing. In Christian theology, which is heavily influenced by Greek philosophy, Kairos is God's time. It is time as it unfolds according to God's design. But with or without a God behind it, the point is, we humans can plan and desire and intend all we want, but things develop on their own schedule and they arrive on their own time. Before the moment of Kairos, a thing is impossible. After the moment of Kairos, it becomes possible. Now let me share a story from my own life. When I was 18, I went away to college. At college, as young people sometimes do, I was feeling the desire to reinvent myself a little bit, right? To use this newfound freedom to push my own boundaries, to do something that felt out of character for me, just try something new. Something that the old pre-college me would not have done. And I decided what a great time to take up smoking. Right? Now, I knew that smoking was not a great idea in terms of its long-term health risks. I was well aware of that. But that wasn't a problem because my plan was to just smoke for a little while. I wasn't going to become a smoker. I was just going to smoke cigarettes every day for a little while and then quit. So fast forward 6 years, I'm 24 years old now. I smoke a pack of cigarettes every day because at age 18, I didn't have a working concept of addiction. And so I wasn't prepared for the possibility that I would not be able to just quit smoking. And this inability to quit was increasingly a problem because, as it happens, I have asthma. I always have since childhood. And so smoking and breathing were like not going very well together for me. And I was becoming a little concerned about this. And to give you a sense of how addicted I was, that winter when I was 24, I got bronchitis, which I have always been prone to, and the smoking made it much worse, and the asthma made it worse, and I ended up in the hospital because I couldn't breathe. So the doctors treated me, and one of them wrote in big letters on a prescription pad, "Quit smoking," and he tore it off and prescribed that to me and sent me home. And for the next several days, I did not smoke because I couldn't. My lungs were really aggravated from the bronchitis, and smoking hurt. But what I discovered was that even though I couldn't actually smoke a cigarette, I could still light a cigarette. And I could kind of hold it by my face, and that was sort of like smoking, and it was just enough like smoking to get me through those days until my lungs were better and I could smoke again for real. The point is, I was very, very addicted to smoking. I smoked for 2 more years, actually, after that experience, dealing with the chronic asthma, the asthma flare-ups, telling myself I would quit any day now, not actually quitting. Then when I was 26, I became a father, and I was determined that I would quit smoking. So I quit. Cold turkey, just like that, I quit. And then 3 days later, I bought a pack of cigarettes and I started again. So I said a bunch of really mean things to myself and I quit. And then 1 day later, I bought a pack of cigarettes and I started again. So I wrote a vow on a piece of paper, "I will quit smoking." And I signed it and I dated it. And I tore up every cigarette I had and I quit. And then 2 days later, bought a pack of cigarettes and I started again. And that is how it went for me and quitting smoking. I must have quit and then failed to quit at least 25 times over a 6-month time period. That is not an exaggeration. It was exhausting. Just quitting and failing, over and over and over again. And then one day, for the 26th time, whatever it was, I quit smoking and it was easy, and I've never smoked a cigarette since. Never even really wanted a cigarette since, and that was 26 years ago now. And here's the thing. Here's the connection to today's sermon topic. I have no idea what happened between attempt 25 and attempt 26. I don't know what changed. I don't know what I did differently. I don't think I did anything differently. It wasn't possible for me, and then it was. And it is an experience that I have always found to be profoundly puzzling and profoundly humbling. Sometimes we're trying to step into a moment, and the moment isn't there. Its Kairos has not arrived. And this is humbling. It can be frustrating. It can be disheartening, right? We launch a business, and the business, which is founded on a really good idea, doesn't take hold. We work to repair a relationship with a partner or a friend or a child, and the relationship is still stuck. We tell ourselves this is the year when we finally do X, whatever X is, cook healthier, write that novel, walk a mile a day, learn Italian, whatever it is, only it turns out that this actually isn't the year that we do that at all, right? And when it comes to the challenges that we face in our community and our world, well, we may be working for peace or democracy. We may be trying to make progress on an issue like hunger or housing, climate change, reproductive rights, LGBTQ rights, right? And it feels like change is agonizingly slow, or even like we're being pulled backwards. Sometimes we're seeking a kind of transformation in our life, in our person, in our world, and that transformation is not there. And this is a part of what it means to be human. Honestly, sometimes our fresh, fertile, heartfelt new ventures fail. Sometimes our habits, our addictions, our inertia, those rote patterns of behavior, sometimes they overbear our aspirations. And sometimes no matter how vigorously we are swimming, no matter how sure our strokes, we find ourselves treading water or even being borne backwards by the tide. What are we to do with this? Now, surely sometimes it is the height of wisdom to know when to say when. Not everything is meant to be, or at least not meant to be right now. And sometimes we are truly holding on too long to some hope or idea or ambition that no longer serves us, or it no longer serves our family or the world. And it is positively liberating to let it go, right? Letting go of that which is not fruitful frees up our life and our energy for new possibilities. And when letting go serves life in this way, when it is born of compassion and kindness and arrives out of life around us, letting go is not giving up, right? It's an opening up. It is an emptying out, the precondition of transformation. But maybe we are doing something we love and something we value and something we believe in, or maybe it just really needs to be done for good reasons and it's not happening, right? And sometimes our efforts are waiting for the fullness of time. Artists know what that's like, right? Inspiration shows up on its own timetable. Of course, if we're not doing our part, if we're not showing up, if we're not putting in the time, inspiration isn't going to just magically happen. But you can't force it either. You can't snap your fingers and conjure it up. Maybe we can get a little bit better at coaxing it out of the corner if it's shy, but there's limits to that. Creativity happens in kairotic time, not chronological time. Understanding often happens in kairotic time. I imagine there are a lot of teachers here in this room, and I'm sure every one of you has had one of those Annie Sullivan miracle worker moment where you're working with a child on a concept and they're not getting it and they're not getting it and they're not getting it, and then one day the light goes on and they get it. Maybe you found some new approach to turn that light bulb on, but maybe not. Maybe it was just they needed to hear it for the 57th time. Maybe their brain needed a little more time to develop. Maybe they had a good breakfast that day, and maybe they had a better night's sleep. Maybe their new sneakers were making them feel so much more confident. Who knows, right? Sometimes it's Kairos, and it's not given to us to know. And sometimes we are the uncomprehending student who suddenly comprehends, right? Our brain, our bodies, our emotional context, these are shifting all the time. And we don't know when our moment of Kairos will arrive, when that insight or that change is suddenly within our grasp. Sometimes, as the poet says, after the questions, the doubts, and the hours of contemplation, there will be gold through the gray, promise fulfilled and truth revealed. Our lives and our beings are shot through with mystery. We are all so much larger beings than we know, capable of so much more than we can understand and identify at any one time, but sometimes that vastness within us unfolds in its own time. Sometimes we are waiting for Kairos. Any reasonable observer could have predicted that my 26th attempt to quit smoking would fail just as ignominiously as the previous 25 attempts. And that would have been wrong. And in fact, those previous attempts were not ignominious failures. Each attempt was the precondition of a transformation that I could not predict or control, but that could not have happened without those attempts. They were ignominious failures. And the wisdom, wait for it, okay. And the wisdom of humility counsels patience with ourselves and others. Patience. Not infinite patience, not self-destructive patience, but a generous patience. And if we can make space for a little grace and a little humor while we're waiting, that can only be for the good of it. It is not given to us in life to control outcomes. Can we let that go? Let go of the outcome. You never had it in your hand to begin with, so you might as well let it go. Right? That's a very Buddhist idea, that we ought to focus on doing the right thing, which we can control, and not the outcome, which we cannot control. And it's profoundly humbling to recognize how little in life we can control. Scary to admit this to ourselves because we want what we want. And sometimes the outcomes matter a great deal. If that outcome is to stop drinking, or a law that is hurting trans people gets repealed, or that the pain of bereavement will someday lessen, right? Or that a loved one will seek help that only they can choose to seek. It can take considerable courage and fortitude to keep doing the right thing, to stay on the path, and to trust that some color will break through the dawn. The moment of Kairos will arrive. And when it comes to some of the great and enduring values that our Unitarian Universalist covenant commits us to strive for, values like peace and justice and freedom, and a future where all people and the earth itself is protected and cared for, we are collectively seeking a transformation whose moment of Kairos may not even be in our lifetime. In fact, it probably will not be in our lifetime. And we strive on anyway, as the generations before us strove on anyway, though it was not to be in their lifetime. Now is the time to do the work, not tomorrow, not some more convenient season, but we do not know what will be the moment of work's reward. Remember, when Henry David Thoreau spent his night in jail and he wrote his essay on civil disobedience, hardly anybody noticed. And 100 years later, that essay helped inspire Gandhi and Dr. King to lead human rights revolutions on 2 continents of nonviolent resistance. And yet that work of peace is still not done either. So now is the season for our labors, and we do not know when the Kairos moment will arrive. In the meantime, what is also given to us and what we can choose is to love ourselves and to love one another through the time of waiting. We can practice compassion and kindness, knowing that we are all of us in some season of waiting in our lives, big or small. All of us are in some season of waiting. Knowing this, we can be there for one another. And just as we can never know what exactly brings on the moment of Kairos, we can never know the true value of a kind word, a smile, a remembrance, a shared meal, or a sympathetic shoulder. It is by such small and faithful acts that a community like this cares for its own and sustains itself through the moment of waiting. So wherever you are in your own season of waiting, may you find hope and comfort here. May we be hope and comfort to one another, and may we find the courage to keep believing, keep dreaming, keep working, bringing love and justice into the world, seeking that transformation until the moment of Kairos arrives. Blessed be, and amen. Our closing hymn today is number 1008 in your teal hymnal, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. Please rise in body or spirit.
Thank you.
long ago, and here they are again. Keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve, that in fair weather or in foul, in good times or in tempests, I may not forget that to which my life is committed. Friends, sometimes we do not know when the moment arrives in our life or in the world. Let us hold on to faith, hope, and love, remembering that to which we and this community are committed. Blessed be and amen. Go in peace.